Welcome back. So I kind of stopped making videos for a little bit, only because I felt like the enemy was taking the words and trying to make them performative and not in a Holy Spirit manifesting God's words type of way, more so in like another mockery. And I didn't want to be a part of that. Like, that's not the point nor the purpose of anything that I do, because I truly value being a vessel of God. So I don't even play like that. So I would rather sit out, not participate, and let them people do whatever they do, but not when it comes to me and what God has me doing. And in that whole process of just, I guess, observing all the things that's been taking place, like, free will kind of kept coming to mind, because I think about how God has already planned everything out and how we're just like fulfilling whatever his will is. But I also think about how free will is a thing and how God allows us to decide if we want to choose him and his way or not. And I kept questioning, like, is it really free will if things like the enemy manipulating words to pervert things and make you fall into his type of plan and actually being able to, and then it's still fulfilling God's plan? Like, how is it free will? How is it free will if it has the ability to be manipulated? Like, how is it able to fit certain people's agendas if it's not pre-planned in their agendas? And I was kind of getting frustrated with that thought, because I wholeheartedly have full faith in what I believe in. So to be able to see the enemy kind of trying to mock that and spin it into like making it seem like it's something that he's able to do, I was frustrated and getting irritated with that being an ability. And I know I always refer back to Job. I'm pretty sure there are tons of other situations that are similar to showing how God allows the enemy to do a thing just to still fulfill his plan. But Job is like the main Bible story that comes to mind anytime I think of these situations, because like it literally sets it up, showing that God and the enemy had a conversation about allowing the enemy to manipulate things in a person's life and it taking place, all for God to prove his point that the people he has chosen that are under his covenant are going to continue to choose him regardless of the enemy's tactics, to make it seem like are they doing it for nothing. So when I was going through these thought processes, it was like God has set a plan out for us to choose to follow, and if we follow it in the ways that he wants us to, it'll still fulfill the purpose that he has intended. But because we do have free will, Like, we can make choices that can alter that plan, but God's so good that he'll still like move the target for us to be able to hit his purpose in every space of time of whatever that we have changed, so that he can still fit it into his purpose. So it always like reference back to that Romans 8:28 verse. So even though like it's still a personal relationship with me and God. So there's things that I have questions about, and I get upset when I see things taking place, because I'm just like, Lord, how is that even an ability when it shouldn't be? To me, I feel like some things just shouldn't be. Like, it should always be rainbows and sunshine while I'm walking with God, because God is who God is. Like, why would it not be? But that's not the reality when there's an enemy out there that is being who he is. So because of that, it's not saying that God can't be who God is. It's just that God has to be who he is in the midst of the enemy being who he is. So even though God is constantly trying to show us how good he is, he also has to utilize his vessels to show who he is as well. So there's a Bible verse that says that, God, it says it rains on the just and the unjust. So it's just basically saying like natural causes is going to take place to people that's justified by it, and people that are just in unfavorable situations for circumstances. But as a believer, living through being able to see the mockery take place, or seeing how the world is changing in the ways that the Bible says that it will change in, and knowing that we're still here in those times, it's just like trying to fortify your mind to know that you can still make it through all of what's taking place, and knowing that it still has a purpose. Because even though times seem like they're getting more evil and things are able to take place that just don't seem, that aren't natural. I won't even say don't seem natural. It's not natural. It's not natural. Like, I don't know any other way to place it or say it. But these things are taking place because there are a people that God is still trying to reach in the midst of all of the people that he has called to him. So us being the people that are in these times that have to live through this, we're still having to show up in the godliness or the godly character or in the belief system that we have faith in, to be, I don't want to say to be the example, but to be the vessels for his purpose. Like, he has to show himself in some type of way to these people that don't believe. And how else can he do this without utilizing the people that have faith in him? And how else does he build you up or make you stronger in what you believe in, or basically show you that you are one of his children? And not even to the point of like Hebrews 12:7 through 11 kind of talks about like in a discipline type of way. Like, it's not always discipline. Sometimes it's just like Job. Job was doing everything he was supposed to be doing prior to the enemy being allowed to to have a place in his life. Like, he was doing things to even help his children, despite whether they were doing it for themselves. And from the outside looking in, it looks like Job was living the perfect Christian, but they weren't technically Christians just yet back then, but living a God-led lifestyle. And in that, people would have, they literally did judge him for, like, God allowing the enemy to step in and do whatever he wants. So they looked at Job as if he was doing everything that he did before for nothing. And the whole purpose of it was so God can prove a point to the enemy that Job's relationship with God wasn't based off of the things that he know God does for him. Like, it was literally off of Job realizing how much he needs God because of what God does for him. Like, we hear about coverings and hedges of protection, but, like, it doesn't really make sense until you, like, going through it. So for me, my mom, before she passed, I didn't realize how much of a covering she was for me. Like, I didn't, because of our relationship and how my life's dynamic went with her, it didn't seem like she was covering me as much as she was. But once she passed away and I saw different things that life can throw at you, it was like I didn't realize how much she was trying her best to be a mother to me. And it wasn't until I saw how God used that to help me understand the fullness of coverings. So in my mind, even though my parents weren't in my life, I didn't take the thought of them being the protector, the provider, or any of those type of things as a part of a necessity for me, because realistically it wasn't a thing. Like, as far as households go, I wasn't in either one of their households. So it wasn't a direct correlation of this is how things are ran in this household because I wasn't in their households. So now that I am an adult and I have my own home and I do things the way that I feel are the way things should be ran in my home, it makes sense for me to be able to maneuver and do things the way that seems fitting to my home. But what God did was he allowed me to kind of see how it would be if let's say my dad had head of household over my home and how things would be ran. Or if my mom had head of household over my home and how things would be ran. And when I realized how different things would be if these people had that type of access to me, and how it can change how you're able to show up and move and do things within your life, because it's basically like someone else being able to control your life. So it's like things that they don't deem as a big deal, and allowing it to take place in your life and not seeing how it can be detrimental towards you is a choice for some people's households. So because something may not seem as big of a deal to them, and you're going through it because they don't see like that's something that needs to be covered, then you're struggling through unnecessary warfare to try to protect yourself from things that the person that's supposed to be the head of that household should be already covering. So to kind of make that make sense a little better, I was watching a show. It's a real old show. It's called Half and Half. And in one of the episodes, one of the characters was upset with her boss because she felt like her boss was taking credit for ideas that she had created. And granted, the boss was she really was, and she was having relationship with the different artists and making it seem like she was building them up in a way on her own to try to get their favor to be able to get their business. And one of the characters kind of went out her way to try to do something on her own to make herself, to show that she was able to do things. And she basically decided to do an interview with a company, and the company basically wasn't the actual brand name. So in the name of the company, it was CNN. But when she actually started to do the interview with the company, it wasn't like what we consider what CNN is. It was like a perverted version of CNN. So when her boss walked in and saw it, she was just like, what is this? Like, what's really going on? And they had a discussion, and pretty much she expressed to her how she felt like her ideas were being taken from the boss and being presented to other people as if they were hers. And the boss pretty much acknowledged the fact that that was taking place, and also told her, like, these things happen this way because she wanted to make sure the deal was closed before putting the face of the person who created the idea out there, so that if it failed, it would fall back on her instead of on the person that created the idea. And that had me thinking of not even just from like a household level. It even has me thinking of that when it comes to like people that are supposed to be pastoring people, or, you know, just different leaderships in different people's lives. And it's like, these are the people that are supposed to be covering the people that are below them or under them. And what I've noticed is, even though the character was the one that was trying to show up and show that she can do things, and it ended up being perverted. Like, these are things that are taking place in those higher levels. So the people that are supposed to be covering the people below them are doing things in a perverted way, and it's just trickling down, making things even more perverted. And it's like, God is sitting back, allowing these things to take place for the bigger purpose or the bigger lesson, to show people how the way that he does things is the way he does things, to make sure that he has his children protected in the way that he has already envisioned from the beginning. And he also is allowing things like this to take place so you can see the difference between people that are truly walking in perversion and their intention all out are for just straight out perversion, compared to people that may be straying from the path that God has already created for his purpose, to be able to pull everybody back into what he intended for all of us. Like I was saying before, kind of moving that goalpost so that he can still fit everybody into his plan. But it's still that, for some, I guess, discipline, showing them that if you move in these wicked ways, how it can harm the rest of God's children, and things that you need to go pray about and get in a better understanding or righteousness with God, so that you're not corrupting the ones underneath. So when Jesus is talking to a crowd and they're telling him, like, your mother and your brother is looking for you, and he looks around and he's like, these are my mother and my brothers, the people that are doing God's will. Like, I fully understand that, because just because people have certain titles, that don't mean they're doing or fulfilling what God has intended for us. There's so many people that they literally have their own walk with God. And there's people that's like trying to rebuke them for walking out their walk with God. And to me, it's like, I don't know those people's relationship with God. I don't know how he disciplines them. I don't know what trials or tribulations he takes them through, nor do I know what blessings he gives them. So it's like, it's not for me to try to run somebody else's household and dictate what they do with their walk with God. It's literally me running my race with God to get to the finish line that he has in store for me. And being able to look to my left and right and seeing my brothers and sisters running or walking in the same route that God has intended for them to get to the finish line that he has in store for them. But it's remembering to always come back to what's constant. That's another thing that I kept noticing. Like, even though some horrible things were taking place, if I took myself out of the chaos that was taking place within the situation and anchored myself back onto who I wholeheartedly believe in, like, it brought things back to the perspective of what the purpose of this whole life's journey is about. And for me, so when it's like, when I see other people or even myself in the things that it looks like it's taking place, like when I see things looking like they're performative, I have to step back and look at the consistency of God. Like, he really doesn't change. Like, circumstances change. The way that he helps guide us back to what he intended for us can change in a sense, but him, himself, and how he does things and the intention behind why he does things does not change. So being able to always come back to like a literal solid foundation is basically the blessing in all of this, because it's perverted. Like, out there is so perverted. There's literally no limits to those people. So you have to have a firm foundation in your relationship with God to be able to make it through, period. I just pray y'all are not falling into any of those traps the enemy is literally out there trying to set in place. And I really pray that y'all like actually trying to cultivate a real relationship with God. Like, I don't know. At this point, I don't really feel like you can fake it. I really don't. Like, it's really gotten that bad out there. Like, I don't think you can. But that's y'all's relationship. I got my relationship. I hope y'all are trying to get a relationship with him. But, that's a personal thing. But that's all I got for y'all for now. Until next time.